I'm going to show you how to make one of the bags out of the Teddy and Unicorn bag set from Kreative Kiwi, and I'm going to do the unicorn. For this I'm going to be using a 5x7 hoop, 2 layers of wash away stabiliser per hooping, a selection of matching bobbin and threads, some masking tape, T-pins, bag hardware, some cam snaps, my squizzers and my fabrics and batting cut to size. There's a link to this design in the video description below. If you would like to win Kreative Kiwi loyalty points to the value of this design, then just keep on watching as details will be given further on in the video. If you're using a magnetic hoop, place your stabiliser over the frame, then take the top and bottom magnets, slide it up your stabiliser and snap it in place. Do the same with the bottom one, keeping your fingers out the way because it will bite. And then do the sides. And your frame is now ready to use. If you're using a traditional frame, place your stabiliser over the outer frame, insert the inside one, and then you're going to pin around the top edge of your inside frame. So take your pin, place it on the inside frame, push it through the stabiliser, bring it round and back through the stabiliser again, and that's going to anchor it and stop your stabiliser from being pulled down between the hoop pieces. You're going to do that on all 4 sides, and the larger your hoop, the more pins you will use. Load the file called U-Flap A into your machine, that's the ears and the horn, along with your neutral thread colour. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 1, and that's going to give you your placement outline for your batting. And I'm going with purple so that you can see what I'm doing. Place your batting over the outline and tape it in place. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 2 to secure it. Trim away the excess batting from around the edge of the stitch lines, taking care not to cut your stitches. We're now going to place our fabric for the front of the ears over the outline. So place it over the outlines and tape it in place. Load your thread colour for the inside of the ears, the shading inside of the ears, into your machine, and then stitch round number 3. And I'm going with light pink. Turn your hoop over and place your backing fabric over the outline of the ears and tape it in place. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 4 to secure it. Trim away the excess fabric from both back and front of your hoop, taking care not to cut your stitches. So turn your hoop over. Load your matching bobbin and thread colour for the satin stitching around the ears into your machine, and then stitch round number 5, and I'm going with purple. Place your fabric for the front of the horn over the outline. And if you're using mylar, or like me, I'm using a glittery organza, place that over the top and tape it in place. Load your matching bobbin and thread colour for the horn into your machine, then pop your hoop in and stitch round number 6, and that's going to secure your fabric in place. Making sure that you've got your thread colour for the quilting of the horn loaded into your machine, you're now going to stitch round number 7, and I'm staying with the gold. We're now going to place our backing fabric, so turn your hoop over, place your backing fabric over the outline, and again I'm putting this sparkly organza on, and tape it in place. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 8 to secure it. Trim away all the excess fabric from both back and front of your hoop, taking care not to cut your stitches. So turn your hoop over. Load your matching bobbin and thread colour for the satin stitching of the horn into your machine, and then stitch round number 9, and I'm staying with gold. We're now going to free our work from the hoop, so turn your hoop over, and taking care not to cut any stitches apart from these here, trim around the edge. Before we go any further, we're just going to trim up the raw edges where we're going to do our joins later on. So cut along the edge of the stitch line, taking care not to cut any stitches. And that's our first hooping completed, and we can set our work aside for the minute. We're now going to do the second hooping. So hoop and pin your 2 layers of wash away stabilizer as before. Load file U flap B into your machine, which is the head. along with your neutral thread colour. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 1, and that's going to give you a placement outline for your batting. And I'm going with the lilac. Place your batting over the outline and tape it in place. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 2 to secure it. And that's also going to give you your placement line for your flap fabric as well. Trim away the excess batting from around the edge of the stitch line, taking care not to cut your stitches. We're now going to place our flap fabric over this area here. So place your fabric over the outline and tape it in place. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 3 to secure it. Trim away the excess fabric from around the edge of this inside stitch line, taking care not to cut any stitches. Then we're going to place our fabric for the face over this area here and tape it in place. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 4 to secure it. Load your thread colour for the quilting of the face into your machine and then stitch round number 5, and I'm staying with the same colour. Load your thread colour for the whites of the eyes into your machine and then stitch round number 6, and I'm going with white. Load your thread colour for the black of the eyes into your machine and then stitch round number 7, and I'm going with black. Load your thread colour for the nostrils into your machine and then stitch round number 8, and I'm staying with the black. Load your thread colour for the rosy cheeks into your machine and then stitch round number 9, and I'm going with light pink. Before we add our fabric for this area here, we're going to trim away the excess fabric around the edge of the stitch line. We're now going to place our fabric for the horn or the forelock, whichever version you're doing. I'm going to do a forelock, so I'm going to place my fabric over the outline and tape it in place. Load your thread colour for the horn or the forelock into your machine and then stitch round number 10, and I'm going with green. Load your thread colour for the quilting of this area here into your machine and then stitch round number 11, and I'm staying with the green. Before we add our backing fabric, we're just going to trim away some of this excess here that's going to get in the way of this stitch line here, the one that goes around the edge. We're now going to add our backing fabric, so turn your hoop over. Now if you're adding a cam snap to this, you have to do it at this stage, because by the time you've added your backing it will be too late. So what I've done is I've worked out where my fabric's going to sit on the back of my hoop, and I've drawn in a pencil line so that I can align it to that once I've added the cam snap. I've also added a cross where I'm going to put the cam snap, and I've extended the lines right out to the edge of the hoop. Then I'm going to place this down, and I need to mark where I'm going to add the cam snap, because I'm going to have to do it and then stitch the fabric down. So I'm just going to take something straight and put it on the lines that I've drawn already. And right in the middle there is where I'm going to put the snap. So I'm going to take this away for a minute. And I've got the first half of my cam snap. I'm going to poke a hole right in the middle of the cross, like that. Then I want the snap to be face up, well actually it'll be face down, on the right side of my fabric. So I'm going to place my button with the point on it through the back of my fabric, the snap on over the top of it on the front of the fabric. Then I'm going to take my setting tool, put the button in the black cup here and the top of it in the silicone one, and then just squeeze, and now that's set. So now let's bring back our work. I'm going to turn my hoop over, and I'm going to place my fabric where I've marked the outlines. And you can see the button actually falls on the cross that I've made there. You do need to make sure that you keep it out the way of the stitch line, which is going to come round here later on for the nose. That's completely safe where it is now. So I'm now going to tape this in place. We're now going to pop our hoop into our machine and stitch round number 12, and that's going to secure our backing fabric in place. Trim away the excess fabric from around the edge of the stitch lines, both back and front of your hoop. So turn your hoop over and cut away, taking care not to cut your stitches. We're now going to pop our hoop into our machine and stitch round number 13, and it's going to leave gaps where we're going to do our joins. And I'm staying with the lilac. Load your matching bobbin and thread colour for the satin stitching and the quilting of this area here into your machine, and then stitch round number 14, and I'm going with green. We're now going to add his ears and the horn. Take your left ear and you're going to place this stitch line here on top of this stitch line here where the zigzagging stops, and secure it in place. Now if you want to do these one at a time, you can. I'm just putting all three on for the sake of this video for time. You're going to place this stitch line here on top of this stitch line here where the zigzagging stops as well, and secure it in place. And we're going to place this stitch line here of the horn on top of this stitch line here and secure that in place as well. Then you're going to pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 15, and that's going to zigzag along here and join the left ear to the hoop. So check your join, make sure that you're happy with it. If you're not, unpick the zigzag stitching, reposition the ear, and then stitch round number 15 again. If you are happy with it, we're now going to stitch round number 16, and that's going to secure the unicorn's horn. So check your join for the horn. If you're not happy with it, unpick it, reposition it, secure it in place, and then stitch round number 16 again. If you are happy with it, we're now going to do round number 17, and that's going to secure the second ear. So once more, check your join, make sure that you're happy with it. If you're not, unpick the zigzag stitching, reposition the ear, secure it in place, and stitch round number 17 again. If you're happy with it, making sure that you've got your matching bobbin and thread colour loaded into your machine for the satin stitching around the head, you're now going to stitch round number 18, and I'm going with the purple. Load your matching bobbin and thread colour for the satin stitching around this area here into your machine, and then stitch round number 19, and I'm going with green. We're now going to free our work from the hoop, so turn your hoop over and, taking care not to cut any stitches, trim around the edge. And before we go any further, we're just going to trim up this raw edge, ready for our join later on. So cut close to the stitch line without cutting your stitches. And that's our second hooping completed, and we can set our work aside for the minute. We're now going to do the third hooping, which is the pocket. So hoop and pin your 2 layers of wash away stabilizer as before. Load the file U pocket into your machine along with your thread colour for the quilting. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 1, and that's going to give you your placement outline for your batting, and I'm going with green throughout. Place your batting over the outline and tape it in place. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 2 to secure it. Trim away the excess batting from around the edge of the stitch line, taking care not to cut any stitches. We're now going to place our fabric for the pocket. You're going to open it out because it's folded in half. You pressed it in half so that the image on the front of your fabric is the right way up, and you want this fold to be on top of this stitch line at the top here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to fold that out the wrong way for a minute. Place it on the stitch line. And then fold it down. And then we're going to secure it in place. I'm just going to put a couple of pins in at the top here to hold my fabric, keeping them right out of the way of the line here. We're now going to pop our hoop into our machine and stitch round number 3, and that's going to stitch along here, and it's going to secure our fabric to the hoop. Making sure that you've got your thread colour for the quilting loaded into your machine, you're now going to stitch round number 4, and that's going to do the quilting. So that's stitched. We can now free our work from the hoop, and we're going to trim around the edge, taking care not to cut any stitches or anything else underneath. And then you just want to fold that over and press it in place like that, and that's ready to join then in our next hooping. We're now going to create the back of the bag, so load the file U bag into your machine. That's going to be the one that's got the unicorn quilting on it, along with your neutral thread colour. Then you're going to pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 1, and that's going to give us our placement outline for our batting and for our tabs. So next you're going to add your tabs for your bag hardware. Now I haven't got a suitable ribbon, unfortunately, for this. You ideally want something like gross grain or something that's not going to fray or snag. I've only got satin, but you take your ribbon, you add your hardware, then you place it down so that your ends are beyond this stitch line here, this one here. So then you would tape it in place. Oops, more fingers and thumbs. And you do the same the other side. As I haven't got the proper ribbon for this, I've made my own. I'm just going to set this aside for a minute. So what I've done is I've cut my fabric 4 inches wide, which is 100 millimeters, by the length that I'm going to need for both the strap and for the tabs. I've then pressed it in half and in half again, the same as you would for bias binding. Then after that, I have cut out the ends where it's going to, up to the point where it's going to sit over the line. Okay, so that I've got no extra bulk in there. And then I top stitched it. And you can actually feel the difference in thickness. I know you can't see it, but when you run your finger down, you can actually feel the difference in the thickness between the area that you've cut out and the area that you haven't. So then, let's bring that back. You'll do exactly the same as you would have done for the ribbon. Place it up to the marker and making sure that you've got both even, tape it in place. And if you want to, you can just put a little bit of tape over your hardware just to make sure that it can't move about as the hoop's moving. So I'm going to replace this one with another one like that, and then we're going to place our batting over the top. So place your batting over the top and secure it in place. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 2, and that's going to secure your tabs and your batting in place. Trim away the excess batting from around the edge of the stitch line, taking care not to cut your stitches or your tabs. So before we go further, extend these lines here, here and on this marker up to the top here, because we're going to need that for positioning later on. Then we're going to add our backing fabric, so turn your hoop over. Place your fabric over the outline and tape it in place. Then we're going to place our front fabric, so place it over the outline and tape that in place as well. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 3 to secure them. Load your matching bobbin and thread colour for the quilting into your machine and then stitch round number 4, and I'm staying with the green. Before we go any further, I'm just going to mark these lines here on top of my fabric here so that we can see them. Okay. Next we're going to place our pocket, our front pocket onto here. Before we do, I've got my pocket and the head, and I'm just going to snap that onto the pocket, and I've also marked the center of the flap here. And what we're going to do is place that mark and this stitch line against this mark and on top of this stitch line, so that it all sits in the right position. And I'm going to turn this around so I can see what I'm doing. So the head is now aligned, the two lines are aligned up. And then I'm going to tape across the bottom here to tape that in place. And then I'm going to tape the sides in. And just one final check just to make sure that it's sitting exactly where I want it. And then we can take off the head. You're going to pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 5, and that's going to secure the pocket to the hoop. Next we're going to trim away the excess fabric from both back and front of the hoop. So turn your hoop over and, taking care not to cut any stitches, trim around the edge. Okay, so it's competition time. If you would like to win Kreative Kiwi loyalty points to the value of this design, like, subscribe and share to support this channel, and give me one fact about the unicorn. This competition will close at 6 p.m. on Sunday the 18th of August, Central European Time +2, and a winner will be picked at random from all the valid entries, so be sure to check back and see if it's you. Good luck and thanks for taking part. Load your matching bobbin and thread colour for the satin stitch border into your machine, and then you're going to stitch round number 6, and that's going to zigzag around here, and it's going to stop where we need to join the head to the body, the bag. You know what I mean. So we're now going to attach the head to the body of the bag. On the back of the head, on the flap here, I've marked the very centre, and we're going to stick the horn down just to hold it out the way while we work. Then you're going to flip it up, and you're going to place this mark against this mark here, and you're going to place this stitch line here on top of this stitch line here as well. And then secure it in place. Then you're going to pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 7, and that's going to zigzag along here and join the two segments together. And before we do the satin stitching, I'm just going to fold that down just to check that everything lines up and that my cam snap is all in the right position. So making sure that you got your matching bobbin and thread colour for the satin stitching around the edge here loaded into your machine. We're now going to stitch round number 8, and I'm staying with the green. So that's our hooping finished. We're now going to free our work from the hoop. So turn your hoop over, and taking care not to cut your stitches or anything else such as your tabs and the horn underneath your hoop, trim around the edge. So next we're going to remove all the excess wash away stabilizer from around the edge of our pieces, so around the head and the body of the bag. So take a cotton bud and some warm water, dip it in and just run it around the edge. So the last thing to make, if you haven't done so already, is the shoulder strap. And again, as I explained earlier, I cut my fabric 4 inches wide and then I pressed it in half again and over. And I also folded the ends over, and just to remove a little bit of the bulk, you can trim off some of this fabric here. Like that. And then fold it over, stitch it down. If you find that your corners are going to poke out, which often they do, again, just trim off the very corner. Now they're not going to poke out. I stitched round and back down on mine, and I've also added my hardware. And to finish the ends off, I've just done a box with a cross in it. I don't know what that's called, but you can see what it is. And then we just need to attach our strap. And we're done. I hope you enjoyed this stitch along. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to be notified of new videos as soon as they're published. Do pop along to Kreative Kiwi's Facebook group. There's always lots of ideas, help and inspiration there for everybody. And thank you very much for joining me. You'll find a link to this design in the video description below, along with lots of other information such as where I get my supplies and some discount codes for you as well. Take care, and I'll see you next time.